Okay, so today's session we're going to be looking at opening a bottle of wine. So obviously wine can be stoppered using different types of stoppers. It can be a screw top, it can be a glass top, or very commonly it can be cork. Now those corks can be made of different types of materials. Some are solid pieces of cut cork, some are cork composite, i.e. it's a cork that's gone through a process typically using glues to create a cork composite cork. And sometimes those corks can be artificial, they can be a sort of plastic, like resin type cork and all sorts. Now you tend to find the better the quality of wine, the better the quality of cork. So winemakers that are making premium wines tend to use premium quality cork, which is great for the aging potential of the wine, but not always as easy to open and remove the cork when you're serving the wine to the guests at tableside. So today we're going to be looking at how to open a bottle of wine using a corkscrew. You'll obviously need the wine, and typically you'll be doing this at tableside with the guest. You'll also need a cloth. Now it's important to keep a cloth close by because we will need that when we're opening the wine. Now the type of corkscrew to use is a waiter's friend, one like this, which also has a little knife for cutting the foil off the wine bottle before we open it. So make sure you've got a good quality waiter's friend that's stable and it's not going to embarrass you at tableside when you're opening a bottle of wine in front of the guest. Now the first thing with opening wine is to take it slowly, don't rush. Do it carefully, do it gracefully, but also try not to be nervous about it. If you're nervous in front of the guests when you're opening the wine, sometimes that shows and you end up making silly mistakes when you're opening the bottle of wine tableside. Finally, if something does go wrong and the cork does come apart or break during the opening of the bottle of wine, try not to panic. There's two things to do. Number one, if you have a more experienced sommelier or someone in the team that's able to help you, try and get it to them sooner rather than later. Don't just keep pulling until the corkscrews come out of the bottle. But finally, if it just breaks off, there is nothing you can do about it. You'll need to speak to your supervisor and ask them what the next steps to take after that particular bottle. So we have a bottle today of Zinfandel. So this is a full-bodied red, and we're going to open it and present it in front of this glass here, which is a Cabernet Merlot Riesling glass. So firstly, before we open the wine, we're going to remove the foil that's stopping us access the cork. Now, all wine bottles will have a glass lip built into the bottle. The important thing here is to cut underneath the glass lip, not on top. You'll see some people in other restaurants cut the top of the foil off above the glass lip. That is incorrect. So the guest has ordered the wine, we've brought the bottle of wine to the tableside and we've presented that wine to the guest. We've done that so that they can say, yes, that's the right wine, that's the one I ordered, or yes, that's the right wine, and yes, that's the right vintage that I've ordered. Then what we're going to do is, before we open the wine, we're going to remember that wine is delicate. We don't want to sort of throw the bottle around. It's graceful. We want to take care, time and attention in presenting this wine and opening this bottle carefully. So we presented the wine to the guest has approved that is the correct wine. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our waiter's friend and we're going to open the small knife part of the waiter's friend. We're going to carefully cut the foil underneath the glass lip, and it's best to do this without turning the bottle more than you need to. So one full turn round so that the label is back facing the guest should be sufficient. And then if you just lift the knife up into the foil, you'll make a dent in the top of the foil, and that should enable you to peel the top of the foil off the bottle. So we now have the foil that's being carefully removed in one section of the bottle, and we have sometimes a very neat, but depending on the type of blade, sometimes a little bit of a messy line around the top of the foil there. Good use of the foil, the napkin now, just to kind of turn it round and remove any small shards of foil that may have come off in the cutting process. We don't need the knife anymore, we can lose that, and we can open up the corkscrew section of our waiter's friend. Now again, remember to keep, where possible, the label of the wine facing towards your guests. We're going to carefully insert the top of the corkscrew into the centre of the cork, and then continue to turn the corkscrew until we're almost all the way in. You want to probably leave about 1 to 1.5 turns of the corkscrew on the top of the cork there. Then we're going to carefully place the corkscrew step onto the top of the bottle, and carefully try and lift the cork out of the bottle. Now with some wines you might feel that, especially a wine that's had a lot of age and been cellared for a long time, there's a resistance in the cork to come up. So just try and pull it gently and carefully, but the skill is to try and pull it completely vertical upright, not to pull it at an angle. That's when you're more likely to damage, fracture and ultimately break the cork. So this cork, as you can see, has already started to move out of the bottle, and we're going to continue to lift the cork out, and then stepping from the middle to the bottom of the corkscrew and to remove it almost all the way. So you want to take the cork so it's literally probably about 1/2 centimetre or so sticking it out of the bottle. So 1/2 centimetre still of the cork still in the top of the bottle. Then you're going to carefully unscrew the waiter's friend, and you can collapse that and pop it in your apron or pop it in your pocket. Then the last part of removing the cork should be done by hand. That gives you a little bit more control about how you remove the bottom of the cork out of the bottle. And if you just very carefully work the cork up, you'll hear a small hissing sound, which is the cork coming out of the bottle. That cork should be moist because the wine should have been stored on its side, and it should be evenly tainted from the wine around the cork. This cork is not yours, it's the guest's. It's part of the purchase of the wine. So the cork goes down on the table, upside down, with the moist red wine or white wine end of the cork facing upwards. Some guests, if they know their wine mate, may pick up the cork and examine it, potentially even smell or look at the end of the wine. So that is now our wine open. To pour the wine and to allow the guests to taste the wine, we're going to pour a very small amount of wine in the glass and stop there. When we stop pouring, we just carefully turn the bottle, and that will prevent drips coming down the side of the bottle. So one thing, when we're presenting the wine for the guests to taste, we need to allow it, put enough wine in the glass that the guests can actually try the wine. So the recommendation is about 50 ml, okay? So that's often more than you'll see people do in restaurants, but it gives the guests enough wine to allow them to aerate the wine in the glass, enough wine to get a sense of smell, and then ultimately enough wine to taste. Once the guest has tasted the wine and approved the wine, you can then go around the table pouring the wine for the guests, finishing with the person that ordered and approved the wine, irrespective of whether that's a lady or a gentleman.